So you might have seen the title and thought, what is this guy even on about? What the hell is he talking about? There's no such thing as failure. Well, I personally believe there isn't, and it all depends on exactly how you actually look at failure. So what I'm going to talk about inside of this video is exactly why I believe there's no such thing as failure and how you can actually see it the same way and use it to your advantage to achieve any objectives that you're trying to set out to achieve. Alright, so we're going to get straight into the video and I won't hold you any longer. Alright, so first things first, when I look at failure and what we're going to talk about is the fact that failure basically is just feedback, and that's all it is. Like whenever you fail at something, or what the common society might lead you to believe in that sense, you're just getting feedback. And all it is when you're testing something out in the marketplace gives you feedback. It either tells you that it likes it or it doesn't. Simple as that. And all you want to do in life is do more of the things that are working and less of the things that don't work. But if you just basically don't take responsibility for your actions, then you will never be able to find the failures. So for example, like, I've been going through Sam Ovens' course, and also, from previous books of Alex Becker, I've read his 10 Pillars of Wealth as well. They really highlight responsibility, and this is one of the most important things that I think you can take in life. What happens is, when you put control out of your responsibility and you say that it's due to other things or other areas of this world, you're basically putting the control out of your hands and saying, you had no kind of input or control over the situation, and it was almost inevitable that this thing was going to not go towards, not go positively, as it was out of your control. So from that, it would be like, okay, well, whatever I do, it doesn't matter because that was still going to fail. And those are people who can't take responsibility. So a lot of people, and a lot of people like to live life like this. So instead of, like, for example, I was watching a story, recently on a TV show. Like, this is, well, not recently, quite a while ago. I don't watch too much TV. But what it was, there was a guy who traveled from the UK over to the States in America. And he was talking about, like, there was a friend that had this basketball team or something like that, and he told him to invest into this business. So the guy sold his house over here, he went over there, and the guy kind of really sort of involved him inside of this business, and it was really just a shambles. So it wasn't what it was set out to be. The guy kind of gave false information and false hope, and cut a long story short, the guy lost everything, had to sell up in America, and came back to the UK, like I think like 2-3 years later, with next to no money, and now rents a property opposed to owning, like, quite a nice establishment. So if we look at that, like what it is now, the guy on the TV claimed that the responsibility was not in his control. So he said, this guy and whatever else, like, I would never trust someone like that again, and blah, blah, blah. So first of all, that's messed up the guy's trust. And secondly, he hasn't learnt from it, because he's learnt to the extent that he doesn't trust someone who gives him information about a business. But now that's going to stop him from business opportunities in the future. So that's one. Then the second thing is, he hasn't taken responsibility, thinking, okay, I took my money out of my house, sold it, and gave it to this guy. Like, no one made him go to the bank and take that money out. And this is the things that we need to look at, and how you need to look at life. No one made him. Now, if he were to look at it and take responsibility for it, what would happen is, first things first, he would be like, it was my fault. I should have never given that guy that money. And on top of it, I should have really done my due diligence, and actually tried to overlook this business plan properly and comprehensively, and actually figure out where the return on investment was going to come and how it was going to come, so I could potentially invest into it. So that's the way you want to look at any investments, is, do your research first and then invest once you feel that it's the right decision. So looking at that, it would basically help that guy to become an evolved version of himself. Because why? He'd be equipped with that extra failure, that kind of knowledge, that kind of gives him a better, like a way of, it's almost like you put on a pair of glasses and you can see better. So you're able to see a good deal from a bad one in that sense. Now, these are all the different things that the guy would have developed if he had taken responsibility. But instead, he pointed fingers at the other guy and said that it was his responsibility. So if we're to look at this story and whatever else, the moral of the story is you really need to be taking responsibility for any actions, because that's the only way that you will learn from the failures. And what happens is you can go and ask any successful person around you. Go and ask someone who's highly successful with finance, someone who's highly successful with, fitness, someone who's highly successful with relationships, highly successful with anything. They'll be able to tell you about many more failures than you've even tried. So usually a successful person has failed more times than you've tried. And that is the truth. Like the most successful people I know financially will all tell me about the biggest, hugest losses that they've had. But because they've taken responsibility from it, what it is they're able to take that information, digest it, learn from it, and then equip themselves with that knowledge to move forward in life. So that way they're able to stay clear of any bad sort of ideas or investments in the future. And now it doesn't make them infallible, so they're not incapable of making mistakes, but it just basically allows them to be a lot more streamlined to achieving objectives. And that's the same way that I look at everything now. Like everything is within my control. Whatever I do, it's all my fault. And that's the truth. And Alex Becker in his book talks about if you were to get into your car at 1 o'clock at midnight, like, in the morning, AM, and you wanted to go get a burger to eat, you drove your car and then a drunk guy smashed into your car and actually, I don't know, killed you in that sense, it would be still your fault. Now, that might seem very dire and very harsh, but what he's trying to get at in that situation is if you were to go out in your car and drive at that time of night, you should be aware that there's going to be drunk drivers on the road. So first of all, why was you on the road at that time? Now, it's a free world and people can take this kind of, controversial view on this. But the truth is, if you're aware that there's dangerous drivers on the road at that time, then don't go out. And that's how you have to live your life in that sense, is about managing that downside at all times, because it allows you to steer clear of those kind of fuck ups in that sense, okay? So that's the way that I kind of look at things. And really and truly, when you get that failure in future, if you're looking at it as feedback, you'll be able to look at it and actually learn from it. So you'll be like, okay, what's the learning curve in this situation? What is it that went wrong and what is it that I could have done better? When you take those two steps and you take that perspective at things, you'll be able to see exactly how you can improve in the future. And when you do it, you really need to take an objective view. So what that means is take yourself outside of your body, out of your physical body, and take a look up from the outside picture as if you were looking in at two other people, and even try and use two people in that circumstance to try and get a better understanding. And what I like to do is really and truly kind of fast forward time and say, you know what, 5 years from now, does that make sense what I've just done? Does that decision make sense? How is that going to pan out in 5 years' time? So almost like you're talking to your future self and he's giving you feedback, and that's all it is, because when you're equipped with all of that feedback, what happens is you evolve into a person which is full of all these so-called failures, which leads you to huge, huge successes. So all of those different things, when people see you and they think, oh my God, like this person's perfect, and that's how it looks to them because they haven't failed. So they kind of will make those failures, but they haven't done it yet. And it's almost like riding a bike. For example, when you ride a bike, it's like you have so many, areas where you fall, you drop, you kind of wobble, whatever, and eventually you find your feet and then you're almost like streamlining, exactly like that. So you still have a potential of having, mess ups on the bike, but at the same time, you're not really going to, because you are so experienced with all of those failures. So if you had, like for example, when you first get a bike and you hit the brakes and you think it's the back one and you hit the front one and you go over the bars, like you might have seen that happen to loads of people. That happened to me many times when I was younger. And it hits your stomach and you get that sick feeling, like it wins you. And really and truly, from learning from that, you won't do that again. It's like the same as when you say, don't touch the pot is hot. So all of these different things is what makes you a human being. But really and truly in common society, it's kind of showcased that failure is something that, you know, almost like your GCSEs or school, like you can't recover from it. All it is feedback. It just tells you, you know, the market doesn't like it. What is it that the market wants? And then if you take an objective view on it and you take full responsibility, you'll be able to see that all of the greatest people do this. So all I'm trying to do on this channel is not give you no expert advice or whatever else. I'm just sharing the stuff that I'm learning and how I'm developing, and really and truly all these things are helping me. So I want to, you know, share it with you so it can help you as well. And we might be talking about, you know, niche websites and whatever else, but I think the people who succeed are the ones who are also building their mindset and also all of the tactics and strategies to achieve success. Because you know, you can give someone, it's almost like installing, you know, a software on an old computer. Like, for example, if the brain is rubbish on the computer, like the modem, not modem, motherboard in that sense, on the computer, then you'll know, okay, well, it doesn't matter what software you install on this, all this new high-tech stuff, which is all the strategies like Facebook ads and, you know, niche websites and SEO. If the actual foundations are bad, it's always going to end up a catastrophic mess, you know. And it's exactly the same analogy of when you build a house on sand. You need to have solid foundations, and that's your mindset in business. If you've got that mindset and, you know, you really understand the way things work, then it will equip you to build these strategies on top and really achieve huge amounts of success. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. It's just a quick one, straight off the dome. And if you liked it, make sure to leave a like. If you are new, make sure you subscribe as well. And if you have any questions or comments, even if they're bad ones or controversial, make sure you leave it in the comment section below. I'll get back to everyone, good people and the haters as well. You know, everything is feedback, as I said. So give me some feedback. All right. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.